very first time I foiled. I'll never forget it. I know exactly the point and I know exactly the view of when I first popped up.
The thing just comes out of the water and everything goes silent. The sensation that you're used to as a sailor disappears. You're just gliding.
It did feel like flying. It was just weird being so suspended up in the air.
It's one of the best feelings in the world. You just had the breeze on your face. I think it's really beautiful.
I remember thinking, I don't know where this is going, but I want to get good at this. Yeah, I didn't know at that point it was going to change the sport.
Welcome to Sail GP. 10 international teams, high-tech F-50 foiling catamarans. Season 4 is go!
The F-50 is the best boat in the world. It rewards you for pushing hard, but it also bites you.
It's a bit of a wild beast to tame.
It's fast and it's really testing the limits.
Intense, exciting.
Foiling just doesn't get old.
To have your hands on the wheel, doing over 50 knots, punching gaps against the best in the world, how can you not get an adrenaline rush?
You're like, oh my gosh, like you're ripping through this fairway, like it's go time.
They just look like rocket ships. They look like from something so far in the future you couldn't even imagine it yourself.
You're moving at lightning speed through space.
When I grew up sailing, would never have dreamt of flying around above the water. It would have been, you know, akin to putting a man on the moon.
My name is Will Roddering. I'm a foiling cat sailor here at the West River Sailing Club on the Chesapeake Bay. When you get to foiling, the boat lifts off, everything goes quiet, everything goes smooth, and it's just an amazing sense of flying. You get addicted to the speed. Once you've gone fast, you just want to keep going faster. And, you know, I got the opportunity to buy this boat in 2018 from the Ben Ansley Racing Program. And this boat's kind of a little Sail GP boat. It's really crazy to have brought it back to the Chesapeake Bay where sailing on foil started 85 years ago. That Wright brothers moment, that first flight with the pioneers of foiling, William Carl and Robert Gilruth.
Michael Neufeld, I'm a retired senior curator at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. Robert Gilruth was an aeronautical engineer, grew up in Minnesota on Lake Superior. He was involved in some interesting aeronautical research, airfoil performance, wing performance. That helped him get a job at the NACA, which became NASA. Gilruth became the head of the Pilotless Aircraft Research Division at Wallops, a small barrier island off the Atlantic coast. At the beginning of the space race, Gilruth was responsible for putting the first American man in orbit.
2, 1, liftoff.
Roger, understand go for at least 7 orbits.
When President Kennedy came into office in 1961, he was looking for what do we do to pass the Soviets in space. Gilruth directly spoke with the president about what the future program would be, but landing on the moon was such a gigantic leap in technology.
3, 2, 1, 0, liftoff. Apollo 11, this is Houston. You're well on your way now.
In 1969, the United States carried out its promise of landing a human on the moon before this decade is out. And Robert Gilruth was absolutely essential to all of that.
Here, men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969.
Without him, it's hard to imagine we would have done it by 1969. Bob, as he was called by all of his colleagues, was really passionate about sailing, and nobody outside of NASA had much awareness of that. And he was very interested in building hydrofoils. This obviously come out of his work with aerofoils. And in 1938, he and his friend William Carl became the first people to sail the first sailing hydrofoil in the world on Chesapeake Bay.
My name is James Gregono. I was an early pioneer of foiling in the UK. Robert Gilruth invented a machine which flew above the water surface in a stable manner, and he was there before all of us. But what we did, different from Robert Gilruth, was to take a standard design and adapt it for hydrofoils. It was seeing birds gliding around the sky and marveling at the fact they didn't have to flap their wings and producing flight effortlessly with no energy. And I related it immediately to sailing. foiling became a major hobby obsession. Icarus was the first successful sailing hydrofoil this side of the Atlantic, and this was a moment I'll never forget. I pulled the sails in, and the thing rose out of the water, and the controls were stable, and I was flying. Icarus was the fastest thing of her size by some margin. It is amazing to realize that the ideas I had on the back of an envelope as a schoolboy have been developed by others to the point we've got to with Sail GP, where these vast machines are going around at incredible speeds, using the same physics, but applied in a way we never imagined, and proving what we know all along, that if you want to go very fast, you fly.
These foiling F50s,
Fantastic boats, fast foiling fun out there.
tight crossings at high speeds.
Chim it up.
When they're up and foiling, the less drag you got, the faster you go.
I'm Dr. Patrick Wren. I'm a marine physicist and ocean engineer. So what is foiling? I get that question all the time. With conventional sailboats, we always sort of hit a wall, and it's associated with drag. You know, you have a sail and you're plowing through the water, and it's incredibly inefficient. Pushing all of this water weighs around 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter, requires a lot of energy, a lot of effort. A foil basically solves that. Lifts the boat out of the water, and now we can go faster and faster and reach speeds that no one ever thought was even feasible with a wind-powered craft, like an F50. When a helicopter is flying and the blades are going around, accelerating air downward, and that's what maintains the helicopter's altitude. And it's just F equals ma applied, basic Newtonian mechanics. The air is accelerating downward, it creates an upward force. Hydrofoil is essentially the same thing, but instead of a blade going around, you have a stationary foil. It's accelerating water downward, and that maintains the upward force. It's what's actually lifting the boat up out of the water and allowing an F50 to fly. It blows my mind whenever I think about it that this nearly 2.5-ton F50 is held up off the water by essentially one tiny little foil.
You know, before foiling, whether the boat was going 10 miles per hour or 20 miles per hour was imperceptible on camera.
2, 1.
Roll blue, take. But the moment the boat got up on the foils and you saw the spray, and even the sound of the foils, sounds like an aircraft. You could see the difference.
Look at the speed, pedal to the metal, hammer down.
It was a dramatic transformation of the sport.
We take 2 more out. Feel that light spot under Alcatraz.
Yeah.
I first foiled actually with Jimmy Spithill with Oracle Team USA. We were training for the America's Cup. I think it was late 2012 in San Francisco Bay, sailing a 72-footer that was originally a displacement yacht that suddenly became a foiling yacht. It was a little bit frightening, if I'm honest.
We were on the coalface of this major new development in sport, doing speeds we hadn't imagined these boats would do, and it was really scary.
I was about as far out of my comfort zone as I've ever been.
Ben is just sailing the boat with the windward rudder elevator just skipping on the surface of the water, just holding onto the steering wheel, and his eyes are like this big, you know, trying to keep the thing going. And I'm saying to him, you know, Ben, if you sailed with that thing either out of the water or in the water, it's probably going to be easier for you. And he said to me, you know, mate, this is the only way I feel like I can get it downwind. That's how he was regulating his pitching moment on the boat. And I realized that, okay, the sailors sometimes understand things that we just don't get, you know, on the design side. It's still an art. It doesn't all come out of a computer.
My name is Mike Drummond. I'm a yacht designer based in Auckland, New Zealand. The 2017 America's Cup, it was decided to race in AC50s. They were going to be a one design platform. After that cup, I thought, well, these are pretty cool boats. It was an inspired decision to say, well, okay, well, let's carry on. Let's develop some new foils, new wings, new sailing techniques, control systems, and that was the genesis of the F50 and Sail GP.
The F50 is an amazing boat. It's been a huge game changer, not only for SailGP, but for the sport in general. If I look back at season 1, it was something new and exciting. Fast boats, close to shore, the best racing league in the world. It was still sailing, just turbocharged.
I think the F50 is basically everything we learn from foiling, and now we've got this tool that can be thrown around like a dinghy, and you're going well over 50 knots or just under 100 kilometres an hour. Man, the thing's a machine. It's an absolute weapon.
Now in SailGP Season 4, what the viewer sees when you see the F50s racing around the course is the outcome of a lot of time and effort and thought and analysis to get this boat to do what it does. It doesn't sail itself. It's incredibly unstable. We have to push to get performance, but if you make a mistake, you get punished.
As a flight controller in the F50, I'm keeping the platform out of the water and constantly adjust the foils. Every little input that there is, if it be a little bit of a sea state change, if it be more wind coming, less wind coming, require a change of the foil to keep it all incredibly stable and going incredibly fast. I got a master's in aeronautical and astronautical engineering, so I learned how to build rocket engines. My background has been nothing but helpful. Understanding how flow over foils work has given me a good jump start into that. And I'm making these decisions probably 3, 4, 5 times a second, compensating, overcompensating, reducing, lifting. How accurate I am, the better and more stable the boat is, and the faster it's going to go through the water.
As with all yachts, the F50s straddle the boundary between air and water. You're producing forces in the air from the wind and reacting them with forces in the water. It's been called the ancient interface. Even the biggest supercomputer in the world is still estimating what the physics of the flow around an F50 is. But even though the boats are complex, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to sail it. And the best sailor's main attribute is processing a large amount of information in a very short space of time.
The designers are so much smarter than I am, but what they don't have is, I guess, the skills at times to get out there and actually put the thing on rails. For me, it's really a collaboration, and you make a change, I'll go out there and test it, give you feedback, and we just continue this incremental gains.
When we look at all of the complex motions of vorticity and laminar flow and turbulent flow and why these little molecules are interacting the way they are, it's incredibly complicated. And there's a saying in the science community with physics that there's more mystery in a cup of water than there is in the cosmos. And the designer, when they're trying to make their F50 go 1 knot faster, has to, work with all of these mysteries, and you can go almost infinitely deep into questions that science still doesn't have answers to.
When the foiling started, for us, it was like going to the moon. You think, man, if it continues on the trajectory that it's been, I mean, what are the boats actually going to be flying now? They won't be in the water, who knows?
Foils in the SailGP give the boat flight out of the water, but the wing sail in the F50 is a really good carbon copy of an airplane wing. It generates flow and power, so it's all those forces balancing together in the F50 that really drive the performance of the boat.
A wing sail, a solid wing, benefits from a very streamlined shape. The traditional cloth sail we've seen on regular sailboats, they're quite a bit cruder. You have a mast, cloth sail, stanchions, you have all this stuff. And all that stuff comes with a lot of drag cost. With a solid wing sail, we get rid of all of those appendages. It's an incredibly elegant and efficient shape. And what that does is it allows what's called the lift to drag ratio, sort of like how much bang you get for your drag buck is way higher than what you get with a cloth sail. And this enables the boat to go way faster.
When I look at the solid wings that we're working with at SailGP, I marvel at the complexity and the ability to control them. But back in 1988, when we first saw Dennis Conner's Stars and Stripes in the America's Cup with a solid wing mast, it was an eye-opener.
John Marshall, design technology manager for the Stars and Stripes wing sail catamaran. Essentially, why the wing is so good is that you can make it very deep, like a very full sail, and have a lot of power in light wind. But in heavy wind, you go from curved to flat. So you give the boat the ability to cover its vulnerabilities. Dennis Conner, who is very distrustful of advanced technology, said, We're going to go out and have a series of races between the two boats within Stars and Stripes Syndicate. The wing won every single race, and that was a decisive thing. You can have a lot of arguments about theoretical fluid dynamics, but if you don't win, it doesn't mean anything. I look at the SailGP boats as a direct descendant of Stars and Stripes 88. The use of wing sails and the addition of foiling takes that whole concept to a significantly higher level.
The writing was on the wall way back then. If you want to go fast and perform, it's about wings, solid wings. By 2010, we had Oracle sailing the big multi-hull, and I was in awe with what they had achieved and how far they'd taken it.
We're talking the biggest wing ever built in the world here, and that includes aviation, aerospace. Like, no one had built a wing of this size. I remember sitting in the design room with Mike Drummond, and we just kept adding more area. But it's easy to do that when you're sitting at a computer. I'll never forget the first day I actually saw the thing in person. I was just like, what have we done here?
It ended up being 68 metres. It looked a little bit like an aeroplane coming into land with the flaps extended at the back. The future had arrived for us.
It was land of the giants, you know, and the thing that puts the trimaran into perspective is that boat couldn't go under the Golden Gate Bridge when the wing was up.
The F50 wing is very similar aerodynamically to the 2010 trimaran. It's an important part of the puzzle of the whole F50. If you just put a wing sail on a yacht, it won't transform it to the same degree. The F50 is a really integrated package.
The F50 is an amazing boat, how versatile it is. I think the 3 wing sizes has been a huge game changer, being able to be more diverse in the wing conditions you can sail.
The wing is creating lift through having shape or camber, and so we can adjust the amount of power in different parts of the wing. Compared to a conventional sail, we're not actually relying on the aero load to give the sail shape. We can actually force that shape in. And so to be able to get the most out of high-performance foiling boats, the wing is an absolute no-brainer.
It's the wing trimmer's job to make sure the boat is going full speed at all times. There's a big screen on the wing and there's a big screen on the cockpit just next to me. So there's a huge amount of information coming out of the yacht. There's 125 sensors giving us infinite amount of data points.
Our athletes are energy chasers. They're the ones harnessing the wind's energy up to 4 times the wind speed. And the F50 is the ultimate science experiment on water. It's drawing people into the sport. We've had 15,000 young people from all over the world come behind the scenes at SailGP. And the maritime industry is now looking at the cutting-edge technology ingrained in the F50, including the wing sail and the hydrofoils to improve sustainability and hopefully create a better future for the planet.
90% of all goods is transported on the sea. The shipping industry contributes to 11% of the transportation part of greenhouse gas emissions. If you would compare that with a country, it would be the 6th largest country in the world.
Humanity have been sailing for 5,000 years or so, and then we forgot about it, and now we're in a way trying to rediscover the art and science of sailing. And I think this Ocean Bird project is trying to do that in a very modern way.
The vessel that we're working on has 40-meter high wing sails. If you compare to F50 wings, it's 10 meters higher than that.
Talking about this slide.
We're using the exact same physical principles in SailGP, but instead of racing 50 knots down the racetrack, we're using it to transport millions of tons of goods in a completely emission-free way.
We are designing something new that hasn't been designed before like this. This boat needs to be able to sail in almost all conditions, to be on time, every time, so that we can truly compete with combustion-driven ships. We need to become sustainable. We need to sail. We need to stop burning fuel. I see absolutely no reason when we look out on the ocean why not the majority of the fleet of commercial ships wouldn't be driven by wing sails, just like these. There is plenty of wind out there.
We do have this sense of urgency. We are working very hard to offer a solution to the current challenges. Foiling has been the key to the door. We have developed the Artemis e-foiler propulsion system, which is the combination of hydrofoiling merged with electrical propulsion. We are developing and launching next year a 150-passenger ferry, fully electric. The big upside of using e-foiling technology is the fact that once the boat is airborne, it's no longer subject to the waves, which allows us to go through sea states which are extremely challenging. The breakthrough is using flight control systems which are autonomous, which do not require inputs from the pilot, from the human. But the same concept that allows the F50 to foil on the SailGP circuit is what we use at Artemis Technologies to decarbonize maritime transportation.
In the F50, we're showcasing the cutting edge of technology for sailing. It's really the stuff of rocket scientists and satellites. We are developing new foils. They're a T-shape. The horizontal piece is made of titanium and is much thinner for the same strength. We have a new rudder too. It's stiffer so it doesn't flex as much, which will enable us a higher top speed. It's a finely balanced equation between the strength of the board, the strength of the hull, the strength of the rig. Of course, we're going to give the sailors a new toy and they'll have to go through a new learning curve.
Let's go for it. We are still learning every day we hit the water. If the boats didn't change, we still wouldn't be sailing the boats at 100% of their capacity. You can never be a perfect sailor.
It's all the design and the background that makes the boats what they are. But at the end of the day, it's the sailors who make the difference.
There's a big moment in our sport. You know, how much computers do we want? How much human interaction do we want? Do we still want the boats to be able to make errors and fall off the foils?
I think you could put a computer doing my job and it would do a better job, probably. It updates 100 times a second, but then it's not a sport.
It'd be similar to saying, hey, in Formula One, why don't, instead of Max Verstappen braking, we'll just let the computer brake at the perfect time in every left-hand corner. You'd be like, well, what's the fun in that? No longer is it an athlete driving the car, no longer is it an athlete flying the boat.
Let's go, we go full on.
Ultimately, this is a human race. We don't want to let technology dominate who's got the most skill. That's really what SailGP's objective is. It's still a race between humans.
This is SailGP.
100% foiling has changed my life.
It's amazing what SailGP has done, right on the edge of what is possible with hydrofoiling craft.
The innovation, the science, technology, I think it's really just the beginning.
Foiling fast like a rocket out the blocks.
Just could not have imagined 10 or 15 years ago that here we would be at SailGP sailing upwards of 100 kilometres an hour.
Puts on the afterburners.
I truly believe the next generation will take it further.
The boats will go faster. Their competition will get even closer.
Wow, it's tight here. Oh!
But right now...
What a start from the Australians!
I think I've got the best job in the world.
Next time on The Spirit of Yachting, a true epic, the Rolex Middle Sea Race.